Hello, this is Dr. David Pomeroy, your host of the podcast ADHD Focus, and I'm so glad you could join us today. My guest today is Michelle Raz, and as you can see from her background, she only has 3 or 4 or 5 companies that she's doing, um, and has wonderful uh, original ideas on many things and the direction of her businesses, not only personal coaching from her, but also mainly academic coaching at different school levels. Michelle, it's great to have you back on the program.
Yes, thank you so much. It's always fun to meet with you. So I'm ready to dive in today with my crazy businesses and what I do and how I even got here.
Yeah, we were going to talk about what you call a tree of life, which intrigues me. So I wanted to find out more.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
How did you come around to that?
Okay, yeah. So it really goes back 15 years ago. And I have a reputation of being a serial entrepreneur on very small scales. And I was really wanting to hone in on something that would catch my attention, hold me accountable, but also more importantly, and this has to do about that time I was thinking of the book that I wanted to write, being in line with my purpose and my passion. Now, with neurodivergent brains, ADHD brains, it's very easy to think of ideas and have all these different avenues that you can take, and nothing really takes root. And you see where I'm going with this tree of life, the root. And so I'm a very creative person. I have a lot of ideas. I can really see through things quickly. I like to achieve. But what I found myself is that I was planting all these different seedlings in different areas, and it was taking my attention into all these different directions. And I really wanted to hone in on my own tree of life. And this is where it started.
Okay. So you had many ideas. How did you pick which one, or I guess hone it down into what are the basics and then grow from there?
Yeah.
What's the seedling that you thought, this is where I'm going to start now?
Yeah, exactly. So it really starts with, and I gotta have a disclaimer here. So I have a framework that I've developed over this, over time, and it's really systematic, and it incorporates a lot of different elements that we're all familiar with. We all know the tree of life, beautiful tree with the roots, the tree, and the big canopy over the top of it. And so I use a lot of visualization. And so I was thinking of, what is my tree? What do I want my canopy to be? Through my own personal journey to success. Now, and this is, for the business aspect of it, but it really helps with clients as well on a personal development. But for the purpose of today, I'll talk about me and the business component and how we have RazCoaching, Coaching Academics Thrive, and Beyond Therapy and Sprout Coach. But is that we want to use the root systems, to start with the roots, to understand, this is what I had to do, to look and understand the growth and resiliency that came from embracing all my unique experiences. And that includes traumas, successes, family supports. And, a lot of times, first of all, I'm in a helping profession. So I knew that. I knew that my background was education, business, and I geared towards that. But I really wanted to understand why. Why do I get the most satisfaction out of this type of career path in the helping profession? And when I look at all the different, roots that made me to my core, so we have the core now is the trunk of who I am, what I want to be. And when I understand all those different challenges, the mistakes and the traumas, I can look at those as, those golden nuggets that's been the highlights of my journeys that's given me strength and the understanding to understand why I feel so comfortable when I'm in this helping profession. It's really who the core, those life lessons. But it really takes examining what those are.
Mm-hmm. So did you use a particular approach or methodology as far as coming down to these are my core values, the core of what I want, where I want to start? How did you refine those or come up to those?
Right. So really good question there. So what I have is a framework, and I work with the clients through questioning. And we will have different prompts to use for reflections to get us to even evaluate what those are. Because we can be very generic and say, well, it's my family, my education. Okay,
yeah, just list them.
What is it about this? You need to ask those deep questions. Like some of my questions for this to understand the roots and to even understand who they are, because a lot of the clients will come to me and they don't know who they are. So we have to go back and help them, guide them who they are. And so I did this my own self. And so what were the challenges and what did they teach me about myself? How did they shape my approach to life and to work? And so then
those were
go
the
ahead.
challenges within that you had within your life, and how did they shape it? So not any particular therapy or whatever, just those challenges. And
and I mean, you could certainly incorporate the knowledge you've learned through therapy if you've had therapy. I personally, at that point in my life had not. And so I looked at these experiences, and I looked at, I'm a person who always sees the cup full. Out of every situation, what can I take from it and apply it to my future? So I look at these experiences and what did they contribute to my strengths today? What do people say about me? What am I recognizing? So you have to become the observer and really understand. So you're spending a lot of time in the root system of, what fed you, what the stability of who you are, and looking at those experiences in a light of positivity. So, you can think of it, the Japanese art. Oh my goodness, it's called kintsugi. I think I'm probably saying it wrong. But anyway, it's about you're not broken. We see this in social media. You're not broken. And so, the failures, the trauma, the challenge, and how these things have made you stronger. And for me, made me more unique. So I could walk into a room and understand.
I have there's a, I guess, physical manifestation of that is like repairing porcelain or repairing pottery. I have a beautiful serving plate and something dropped on it, so it broke. And so now there's a larger part and a smaller part, a very distinct break, and those parts fit back together.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, I heard about that. Okay, how does that work? So there's an epoxy, and you can have silver or gold, whatever colors.
Yeah.
And the point being, yes, you're going to see this line, and it's going to have some silver line in it. But that is also part of, okay, it's not perfect, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's
and in fact, it's beautiful, right? In the Japanese culture.
Yes, that has that only its beauty. And I'm going to circle back to one thing you talked about in terms of looking at your strengths and what came out of your experiences. And I've been asking my patients recently, what strengths do you take from your ADHD? What are attributes that are helpful? Because most of us think of the symptoms that get in the way and how it doesn't work and can I correct that? Well, just about everybody says, and they look up their thinking, and some of them, that's an interesting question. I haven't thought about that. I would say 75% of people say hyperfocus. I can dig into a subject that I'm very interested in, and time dissolves. It just goes away. And you get working it. I get researching things and writing up stuff. And I look up and I've been sitting there for 2.5 hours,
Yep.
but it's very
Yes.
interesting.
So
Now,
here's some questions.
double-edged sword of it is, what do you choose to hyper focus on?
Yeah.
How many levels of this game can I hit up? That's not a productive hyper focus. It may be fine for
Yes.
Saturday afternoon and you want to play the game, but not 9 o'clock at night.
Yes. And so this is where this tree really comes in. And that was the big purpose for me, was to not divert my attention and my focus, which is so easy to do when you have so many interests, that would pull me away from my core. So you touch on a couple of things. So yes, looking at those roots that make you who you are, looking at the things you thought were negative and actually it's a positive, and you're looking at you, especially with ADHD, from a strength based. And some of the negative experiences can be positives if you're always coming up with the ideas and you're blurting them out. Well, you know what? You're an idea person. You're a forward thinking person. That's a positivity that's coming out of this. And we can help you refine when it's, pull back, and we can work through all you think about is why interrupt people. But the ideas that you get out there are amazing. So we look at, what do we love? We understand our roots, and then we go up to the core and how this makes us who we are. What do we love doing? Why do we love doing it? And really be in line with taking action based off of knowing that it feeds your core of who you are authentically and your root system. So for me, I enjoy helping people be the best possible version that they can be. I've talked before about, my father was neurodiverse. He was misunderstood. He lived in shame. He was constantly having interpersonal problems. He lived in an era where we didn't have these definitions. We didn't have the positive psychology talk. And so as a child, I, unfortunately was a child therapist sometimes. And growing up, I developed a lot of empathy. And some people can say, well, that's some trauma. I was like, yeah, I didn't know it at the time, but later looking back, I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have been giving advice at 8, 9, 10 years old,
Yeah.
But what it did do is set me up for future to know that I'm kind of good at that. And I understand, I have empathy. I can listen really well and deeply, and I can help people problem solve. So that's part of my root system. And my core of a person is I love seeing people see the potential in themselves when nobody else saw it, or they don't see it in themselves, because that's part of my root system, is, that childhood experience. Now we can take some positives too, like I was a high achiever, great athlete. Those are some really good dopamine, feel good kind of things that's important to me in my root systems. So I have to honor that in whatever I do. So understanding the roots, the core. Now let's go into the branches. So that you go into the branches and go ahead. I just keep going and going.
A second. And in terms of two things, and I guess blurting out and interrupting is considered a hyperactive symptom of ADD. I tend to think it's there, and yes, they're blurting out because we learn that if I don't see it now, I'm going to forget it. As there's 5 more minutes of conversation, and
isn't that the truth?
my working memory doesn't hold that much, so I got to say it now. And of course, other people are thinking, "What? Wait a minute, I haven't finished saying what I am." So yeah, we have to work with that.
Yeah.
But understanding, yes, you have the ideas, and it's what I call, and other people have called, an associational mind. So how does your mind work? And many people are sequential. They need to go one step at a time and understand each one. I think ADHD, we tend to have an associational mind. You think of this and, oh yeah, well, and then I remember this comes in. So we're pulling these ideas out of seemingly nowhere. And it's something you remember from 5 years before, or for me, it's I like words, and weird words trigger my memory. Well, when they were naming a lot of parts of the body and people are anatomists, they came up with Latin things. Oh, that looks like a saddle. We'll call that the uncus and whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's a strange word. So when there's a symptom or a condition that's associated with that word, that memory stuck for me.
Yeah.
And so that's an association. Oh, well, there's this.
Yes,
So
I
it's
can
great in
relate to
medicine,
that.
but
Absolutely.
I think it's
And
great it's a creative
yes,
problem solving thing. It's kind of a
absolutely.
brainstorming. And then we often get to a conclusion that other people say, what? No.
Yeah.
I'll walk them through sequential and,
See
oh,
that.
yeah,
And
we did.
I can relate to that through the years. And I had to oftentimes dig my heels in and try to say, well, this is why. Or I get to the end and it takes them 3 days and I got to it in a few hours because of
Mhm.
the mind like that. So this is a perfect launching point to get into the tree system. Is that this was my mantra for myself. Any branch, that association
Yeah.
branch of and I'm talking about career path right now, but we can talk about anything. But right now I'm talking about my career path. And as long as that idea, that thought process was a branch that lived through the trunk and the roots of my tree that I knew because I did the
Okay.
homework, I could go for that. If it was something that was over on the side and planting new seed, I knew it was going to take time and energy, so
Mhm.
to speak, watering it, nurturing it, and it didn't align with my core purpose and the root system. I had to not let it go necessarily, but shelf it, create a book of ideas. Once I've
Yeah.
got my tree and my canopy there, I'm not saying no, I'm just saying not now. And so
Mhm.
that process is what has gotten me to have these 4 companies. And here's the other thing, right? The ADHD mind gets bored easily. And so I know that I need stimulation, I need creativity, I need forward movement. And so by thinking of my career path as a tree, the tree of life for me, that
Mhm.
if I had a new idea, I was allowed to be creative and have new ideas and go in different directions as long as it aligned with the core purpose and the roots. And I
Okay.
could have fun and it stimulated my brain. I didn't get bored with it. And where some
Yeah.
of the other things, you might start a project, stop a project, start a project, start a project, very common. And so this is one way that I've been able to hold myself, and I'm the accountability queen, hold myself accountable to stay
Mhm.
true to myself, my root system, my core, who I am, what I am today, and live in it. Don't, we talk about shame and all that because that's a piece of a lot of neurodivergent
Yeah.
people, but build that beautiful life, the tree of life of yourself, and watch it flourish. I'm telling you, you will go into areas you had no idea you were going to be doing
Yeah.
by having these
I
different branches.
and
And
I
success comes along with it as well, because
mhm.
you're not you're concentrating. Everything you do goes down to that root system in that core.
Yeah. So that defining we're looking at past experiences and seeing how those are the roots of who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
That can then help me define my core values, and core direction. There's
Yeah.
a process I went through in a personal growth program, and it was refining down. It was kind of what things do you like about one thing and another, and then refine what are some of the common ones of those. And so you had maybe 10 words in 6 things, and then you had 4 words in 3 things, and come down to what's common in all of them. What would be one word that can describe the way you approach things. And for me, it was passion. And maybe it's hyper focused, but passion about being in the outdoors, being active, about medicine. And that's a huge one, just the whole area of medicine, from the basics, how the body's put together, how it works, and that's what's happened when it's not working well, to how to learn the information, listen information from people, mainly by listening and not asking a bunch of questions. And then putting that together, this is where the associational mind comes in. Oh, there's this piece, and there's that part, and that fits into this. And then how to help that person understand it, which is another whole part in itself. So there are all those things, but it grows out of the passion.
Yes.
And then what things do I have passion for? So the branches might be, yes, I love to go on organized bike tours. I'm traveling, I'm seeing things kind of minute by minute instead of zooming by it in a car. And I also enjoy medicine. I can get lost in many little branches of that, many little trees and seedlings around. And then I do have other ideas that show up that, yeah, that's a cool idea. And I need to realize, but not now.
Yeah.
Which gets at what I've seen as kind of a summary is the quality of yes, quality of what you're doing and committing your time to is proportional to the quantity of no.
That's a good point.
For ADD,
Yes.
We have so many interests. And, oh, yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, I'd like to help there. And pretty soon we're overwhelmed and overcommitted. So stepping back, let me think about that. Let me check my calendar. And then does it fit with your core? Is it another branch, or you have too many branches, you have to prune some of them?
Well, yeah, let's talk about the pruning, right? That doesn't always serve your purpose, and we evolve. And just like a tree evolves over time. So this so resonates with exactly why I came up with this thing for me, which was this tree of life for me, because, I love to learn. I love to be curious. And yet I also need to have, for me at that time, I wanted to create a legacy of me, of what I was, or what I am, or what I was, for the future. And in order to do that, I wanted to go deep and build my roots for that, and understanding that. And once I understand how my roots have made me into the core self, and I was able to embrace that, it just exploded with different avenues. And which is asking that question, and this is where I came up with this seedling analogy, but basically you're asking yourself is, does this new idea, this new interest contribute to my purpose, my passion? Or if it doesn't, you need to think about, is it worth your time? And sometimes it is worth your time. Like, for instance, I would love to start pottery. And I know I don't want to make it into a business, but I know that fulfills my downtime. Because as much as I like to go, I'm the Energizer bunny. I've been told that my entire life. I do need something to bring me down into a different element, and something that I know would help me in my purpose. So,
and I think all of us do need to, it's easy to blow by that. And I've looked at kind of the basics of life, what we need to stay healthy and vibrant. And yes, there's getting sleep, which is number one, good sleep, and also exercise, physical activity, and eating right, nourishing the body right. Maybe that's supplements, and definitely diet choices, but it's also rest, mental rest, refresh.
Mhm.
And that is doing something that requires your mind to be right here. Now, for some people, that's a sport. You can't be thinking about something else when you're running a play in football. You've got to be right there,
Yeah.
or in basketball, or for me with cycling, I've got to be there in terms of, am I going to hit a bump, a rock? Um, don't go through this curve too fast, whatever. You have to be right there so your mind gets a rest from everything else.
Yes. And so that can be part of your tree is, you
Mm-hmm.
need to have a piece of, wellness in there. And so maybe that's, one of your core branches. And you
Mm-hmm.
just hit it on a point is, when you're have so many different ideas going and you're going in different directions for that one business or four businesses, you
Mm-hmm.
need that break. And like, for instance, I have tried to actually find a pottery class and I can't right now. But I did. Have a gym and I took up rock climbing, indoor rock climbing
Oh, cool.
at my
Yeah.
great age, right? And what I love about that, and I'm not trying to do, anything crazy, basically beginner intermediate, but what I like about it is that you have to pay attention. You triggered that into me.
Oh, yes.
You have to be focused and pay attention, and I have to be in the moment and that wall with the rock and have to let go when you come down because it's these self-belay things. And I love that. And then I love to go jump in the
Mm-hmm.
sauna because it, bakes your mind and then you come back just relaxed. But then
Yeah.
I sleep. Like you said, that's really important. That helps me sleep. And then the next day I can get up. I get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I love that time of day because I can think through what I need to do
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for businesses before I actually then put things into action. But you're right. We need a break. So we do need these things. But am I going to go start in a pottery business or a rock climbing gym? My brain would be like,
Yeah.
oh wow, you know what? I could do a whole wellness thing for people that are coaching and they need to go do this. And I have to say to myself, whoa, 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 does that feed
Yeah.
coaching
It's
academics?
right. And this is where another, I mean, yes, doing a sport, being active, that's good. You
Yeah.
can also play musical instrument. You can
Yes.
also learn how to play one. You can also learn a board game. Um, if anyone's ever tried to play the game Magic, you thought there were rules to things. This is exponential in
Yeah.
terms of how it works, but that keeps our mind active. And even doing a
Yeah.
more simple one, it's actually a board game with people and you're moving pieces on the board. You have to be there
Yeah.
playing
Present.
bridge. And
Present in that
it could
moment.
be as simple as mindfulness, mindful breathing, and doing a mindful practice for even 5 minutes twice a day. And I've
Exactly.
started
That's
doing
actually
that
how I
to
start my
yeah,
day with
get
a
that
short meditation
routine.
practice.
And it is refreshing. If I do that at lunch, I've got a uh, new start, a fresh start for the afternoon. And
I
it's
love
that
that. Yeah.
mental break, and it doesn't have to be long, 5 minutes. And I'd say,
Yeah.
okay, 5 minutes, and I don't set a timer. All of a sudden, I've been doing it for 10. And it
Isn't that
is
true? Sometimes it's
takes
that just that
practice.
initiation. I don't know about
Mm-hmm.
anybody else out there, but my brain sometimes is just so like ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. I'm like, I know I need to just stop and do my box breathing or sit down and do my yoga, but I'm so, I'm just going. And
Yeah.
it's really hard for me to do it in the middle of the day. But if I wake up and ease into it, and my day goes so much more, smoothly. Um, and one other thing I want to just throw this in here, and this came up recently,
Sure.
okay, because the neurodivergent brain's a little bit different. So they're like, well, let me just go down this path a little bit because I have this analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can
Sure.
still use the tree piece. And so the neurodivergent mind, is remarkable. It's, of course, a
Mm-hmm.
creativity, innovation. Obviously, we're talking about it here and very unique perspectives. And that's why we want to get these ideas out there sometimes. And sometimes I will say, if I'm interrupting somebody, I'm like, I am so sorry, but if I don't say that, I'm going to forget. Can I just
Yeah, that's
find out?
that exactly.
People will, roll their eyes, but they know me. But anyway, so going along this is that we can say with that neurodivergent mind, and this kind of falls in line with these 4 different businesses, is that we can also be like an aspen tree. So an aspen tree is not just one tree, but part of a vast interconnected root system, just like the neurodivergent brain. And it's capable of connecting ideas, thoughts, experiences that are somewhat unconventional, but are profoundly powerful. And so if you're that person with that neurodivergent brain where you're like, well, I can have X amount of trees. Well, good for you. And I do believe it's possible. And hopefully they're connected on that same root system.
Yeah,
And
you have a forest in a way.
yeah, and so that brain that thrives thinking outside the box and solving problems from so many different angles, you're capable of doing this. And here's what you think is like, you need to have a good team behind you. And this is what I have found over the years is that if you get some like-minded people behind you and you can, if you're that forward-thinking person and you've got somebody right next to you that also is there and you can team together, you can grow, in Aspen Grove and
definitely
be
when you're
successful.
getting to that point, then you need some support but also someone who can maybe be the background helping that branch develop.
Yeah.
Because I think so many of us with ADD have a great lot of ideas, and we can say, man, and you come kind of create with this is a way it can work.
Mm-hmm.
But then the maintaining it, well, that's getting boring. I already did the interesting stuff.
Exactly.
And so that's where having a COO, having a chief of operations who that's the person who does it. And
yes.
An example of the person who founded JetBlue, and he's very open about his ADHD. And he said, yeah, in that company, I'd have an idea and put it together. And I'd talk to people at a meeting and I'd say, so does this work? Can you guys do that? Oh, yeah, good. Go do it.
Yeah.
He didn't have to get down to the nuts and bolts. How did this really figure out? How do we keep it going and improve it? He'd check in on it, but someone else was doing that part and he was off with another idea.
Exactly. And so oftentimes, I'll find myself, I can jump in and out. And a lot of times people with, that have similar minds that, like think like mine, my father being one of them, is that you can jump into a situation and do anything. And so I always say like, I'm rolling out a new program and I really am. And I said, you're like, oh, who's going to do this? They're not trained. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be in the trenches because this is how I roll.
Yeah.
I want to get in, understand it, and we'll make iterations of it. And then I can train somebody else. And so I get excited because it's something new, but it's still part of my coaching platform. And then I can pass it on to somebody else. Like you said, they get excited about it once I get excited about it. And so oftentimes I call myself, and I know people have probably heard this before, but the brain, that neurodivergent brain can often be the Swiss Army knife. You've got so many different facets of you.
That's a cool way to think about it.
And so I'm coming in. I just said this like within the last week or two. I'm like, well, I'm the Swiss Army knife. I'm just going to jump in and I'm going to try this out. And I get excited about doing it, even though I'm busy. Yes, I am busy, but I'll tell you, I'm going to throw AI in there because as we, understand the power of using the AI with our knowledge, our expertise to work for us, I'm already becoming much more productive. And so is the team. And I'm able to go out there first and say, hey, this is cool. It's our content. It's original. In fact, we're bringing in AI study tools for our students right now. So, and it's just, again, it's exciting for me. So I get to go forward in the thinking. I'm not just stuck in the everyday mundane, but I'm like, hey, this is this idea and it's going to help our students, which is part of our root system, our core of our company, and feeds the root system. So that's a perfect example, like lately, of like, oh, bright idea. This will be really cool. And then how can I bring it back to the company? And then
And
one
I
other
think
thing,
there's,
accountability. One of my key people, I did
Mhm.
not deem her this. Her child deemed her this. I call her the fun killer. And so
Yeah.
we've had these personality tests. OptiMatch is this really great program that my good friend of her, Jennifer Hill, developed, and so we all have taken this test, and it's shows us what motivates us and what we like. And I'm an achiever, surprise. I get to get things done, but I also have this fun component, surprise. And my partner, that she's helping me run the company, CEO. She is really big in the research, the reality checks. And
Mhm.
so anyway, she just made fun of herself, saying, well, because she'll question me, what about this and what about that? And I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you need. And that helps refine some of those ideas. And that's where it's almost like a pruning of your tree. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
got all these things, and someone says, wait a minute. Oh, yeah,
she's
I
my
got
pruner.
this and that.
I'm going to tell her
And
that the next time. You know what? You're just
yeah,
pruning all my branches back and
right,
make them
right.
strong.
Um, I I'm not sure that I can figure out how to do this, but I'm going to trip back to one of the things you talked about in terms of you get an idea and, well, that's not for right now. I'm going to nourish it. It's a separate seedling, kind of put that on the shelves. So we have to have something written down, a reminder, something.
Yeah.
There's just a fascinating book uh, called Lichtenbergerianism. And if I can figure out how to share um,
Yes.
my screen on that. And the premise of it is procrastination as a creative strategy. And
Okay.
so, in a way, looking at that, you've put down the idea, you're in a way procrastinating on following that, but you have it in a place where you put down all these different ideas. And this fellow Lichtenberger was a notorious procrastinator. He was also a physicist, a writer, a
Mm.
musician, all these other things. And he kept what he called waste books, where he just write an idea, write something that occurred to him.
Look what I have
Uh,
with me right now.
yeah, there you
I have
go.
them all
And
everywhere.
then it may be 4 years later, he would
Mm.
think, wasn't there something about that? Didn't I have an idea about that?
Yeah.
Well, this book grew out of a group of men who would get together, I think 12 of them, they get together once a week for a week, or once a year for a week kind of retreat. And they talk about ideas and what each of them had been doing. And someone had been looking into this guy and they got talking about it. And I thought, oh yeah, that's kind of neat ideas. The next year when they came back, all of them had been more productive that year than they had in many years before.
Yeah.
Someone wrote an opera. Someone devised a whole college class and was now teaching a course. Someone else finished a book. These different things that they started using these ways of looking at it. So then they turned to one of them and said, you're a writer. We need to put this into kind of an order. We'll come up with it and you're going to write it. So, okay. So the book is Lichtenbergerianism, and it's by Dale Lyles. And I don't know whether share screen. Uh, no, Zoom, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
Come here.
Well, while you're looking for that, what I would like to know is if you can find this, is there an audio on that? Because as you know, you're working out your or early morning reading, you can do it too. But I find that driving and whatnot, it's a perfect opportunity to listen to these types of things because
Yeah.
you need that validation that it's okay to have this mind with all these great ideas. Because what I thought of when you said about the book is, and I certainly have many of these books, and I for some reason keep them, right. And I've
Mhm.
gone back to them. I was like, that was good stuff. And now I can pull it forward, is that it feeds my creativity, because to tell myself no and just put it away, it kind of, you shrink down a little bit. My shoulders go down a little bit. But when I say good idea for later, I'm honoring the idea, that creative process, and not just
Yeah.
disregarding it.
Yeah. And that's the that is a good idea, and it's helpful to look at. And I apologize to anybody if you're seeing stuff that doesn't make sense, because I'm trying to at least get back so Zoom looks big enough. And
You have to stop your sharing, I think.
yeah, well, that's the thing. I can't get the Zoom thing to stop the sharing. Sharing meeting controls. Yes, I would like to do that. No.
Well, I do know at the bottom where it says share, my arrow is green. If I click on it, I think you can unshare.
Yeah. This is what I want to share. So do you see the
I do.
title?
I see the title and
Right.
the author. So that's
And the
actually
author.
been up for a while. Yes.
Okay. That's what I wasn't, my screen didn't show that. So so that's the spelling of the book. It's very readable. He's a wonderful humorist and writer. And it lays out the whole kind of principles, where it came from. And then there are 9 parts of it and steps, really, in terms of developing the ideas that have come out of this waste book thing. It's just an interesting, different way to look at things.
Yeah, no, that's great. Oh, see, there we go. You got it.
There we go.
Oh, this is great. And well, as we're talking about pruning when necessary and whatnot, as these ideas, one of the things that, I really try to tell myself, and I tell people that I use this framework with, is that if that new idea, that new seedling, like you've decided not to just put it in a book and your mind is going like, I can do this. If it's providing too much distraction from the core of what you need to be doing, and it's not aligning with that purpose, you need to be okay to prune it. Some people have a hard time letting go.
Let it go. Yeah. Yeah.
Letting go of your idea, the actions, commitments, and if they don't serve that long-term growth of where you want to be, and that's where that book can come into hand. Put it into place and honor it. And sometimes this is where people get stuck. And so having that accountability, and it's really important to have that person, have that fun killer,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Someone that,
and you got to be okay with it. And laugh at yourself. I do.
Yeah. See that you need that core definition, so then you can look at things with that as your filter or perspective and say, okay, I like this idea. It's really cool, but it doesn't really fit in the core. It's going to be a different tree. It's not just a different branch.
Exactly.
And that's going to take away the energy from where I'm going. Otherwise, we end up with this whole network. It looks like
an orchard of different fruits, whatever you've got going.
Those
so it's
plants that go in all different ways.
And so we need to be able to have the time and space to reflect. And this is why it's so important for, like we talked about earlier, having that break, that meditative, the breathing time, the quiet time. So you're not just always on and off sleeping because you're so exhausted that you've been on for so long. Is that building in that awareness, that reflection time, be the observer. Why are you drawn to this new idea or thing you want to do? Does it really align with your values, your goals, your existing commitments? Does it
And
complement your core
mhm.
listening purpose? And then go from there.
And I can hear myself saying, and I can hear people saying, yes, but I don't have the time. I've got
Yeah.
family, I've got a job, and I come home, but my job, I'm working till 6 or 7. I come home and I'm working more. So it's easy to have gotten into those things, and
Oh yeah.
they're crowding out
I
the
get you.
time.
Yeah.
And people say, I don't have the time. No, we aren't taking the time.
Yeah.
We all
Thank
have
you. Because I'm like,
24
well,
hours a day, same.
we are masters of our own life and our time and how we spend it. And
Mhm.
it's one thing that I have found for myself is like, if you aren't disciplined to do it when your mind is the best to think these things, to reflect, it won't get done. Like for instance, for me, I'm not a night owl. I know a lot of people, are.
Mhm.
You give me something past 4 o'clock, it's not going to be good. You should see my writing. But I will tell you, if I take the time and set an alarm and get up at 5 a.m., I've even done 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and I get up and I have a ritual to get my mind in a quiet space before the activity of the day starts. Some people like it at night
Mhm.
because it's quiet, but for me, I have to do it early morning. I love that awakening with the day. That's when I can reflect. I can think, I can ponder. Or
Mhm.
I said, I'm an huge outdoor enthusiast, running, biking, hiking.
Mhm.
Those are the times when I can really
It's-
think and evaluate and do that.
mhm.
So understand your own biorhythms and what works for you, I guess, is the bottom line.
Yes. Yeah. And it does take some reflection and looking at, yeah, I do great at putting together ideas and things at 4, 5, and 6 p.m. And others, it's, yep, I can get up early. So we all do have different rhythms.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So, and the earlier you understand your own rhythm, right, then the more you can take it and use it for yourself, and that's when your productivity will soar. I promise you, if you stick into understanding what works for you. So, not only are we understanding our root systems, our core purpose, but we didn't talk about. We could talk all day about this, but your
yeah.
biorhythm, and organizing your day around those stints,
Yeah. And and that's where
sprints,
I
I've even
know
heard it say,
I've
sprinting.
found times where my job requires me to be doing analytical thinking work that may not fit with my biorhythm.
Yeah,
Okay, what can I do during the day that refreshes that
good
and
point.
refreshes my mind? That's where the mindfulness break over lunch or the
Yeah.
10-minute walk or listen
I'll
to
give you another funny one.
books.
I'm giving you these funny ones, and I have my tips and tricks. So I
Right.
have something called Raz Bites, BYTES, Raz Bites, and it's monthly brain hacks. And so this is a perfect opportunity. So if anybody out there sees this and they
Right.
want to know what it is, it's just free once a month newsletter thing. It's not even called a newsletter. I hate newsletters because it's too long, didn't read stuff, but I do these one short that are unique and work for me. Okay. So just throwing that out there. If somebody wants to connect, and you can connect with me on that. But anyway, so if you come to my house at anytime after 2, 3, 4, I said about 4 o'clock, my brain's done, and I'm forced to do something, and occasionally this happens, you are going to hear music half a block away. And it's not going to be songs with words. It's going to be beats, binary beats, and whatnot, like the ancient history. And, we used drumming a long time ago, to
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
stimulate our mind and get that oxygen in the brain moving. And so for me, I need something like that. And it has to be loud, no words. And that works for me. So that's a brain hack I do. Or God forbid I grab a pack of gum and I start chewing gum, and I make sure I'm not on the phone with somebody or doing a call because it's obnoxious as hell.
Yeah, and that's your break.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the
if I
music
put
learning
on
habit
a
is big. Yeah.
symphony and if I'm home,
Yeah.
pretty soon I'm conducting it, and
Right.
that's how I'm into it.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things, yeah, they're different than what we usually do.
Get
We
into
need
your
to,
flow, forced, and
yeah,
that's a forced
it's
flow, and it works. Couldn't do it every day because it's got to be novel. But if I want
mhm,
consistency, I need to honor my time at, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning,
yeah.
that, deep writing,
So,
deep thinking time. Yeah.
and I think what we've been talking about is honoring ourselves,
Yeah.
two separate words, ourselves, honor myself, honor
Mhm.
yourself in your core, what experiences have you had? They may have felt negative then, or you look
Mhm.
back and, yeah, that was traumatic or negative, but something came out of it,
Yeah.
maybe a mindset, an ability. Those are our roots. And then we look at what our core really is, we're passionate about, and what things can fit with it. Then we let our ideas go, and those are the branches. And with
Yes.
neurodivergent minds, we have a whole lot of ideas, so we may need to prune some of those back. And having someone, now we got branches of branches of branches, and you'd have someone help us
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
developing the ideas. So I want to make sure people know how to find your website.
Yeah.
And it's
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, you got them all right there.
so
So
the
I'm big in
Raz
LinkedIn. Yeah.
RazCoaching.com.
Yeah, razcoaching.com is like my adult. You can get to coaching academics from there as well as Thrive Beyond Therapy. But Raz Coaching, I have a newsletter there. Coaching academics is another way. LinkedIn is a good way to connect with me as well. You can follow me because I am actually posting some of the stuff on there, and then you can subscribe from there. And it's Coach Michelle Raz. You just look me up there. But again, I'm in the helping profession. I like to share my knowledge. And so also my YouTube channel, I'm building that out right now. And I've got good content, and I'm turning those Raz Bites into video contents as well for people that just don't want to read it. And so that's been really fun to create as well. And that channel is at Raz Coaching. So really Raz Coaching services and everything that goes along with it.
Great. Well, Michelle, it's been wonderful to talk with you again, and I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Yeah.
And
And I'm getting that
in
book.
terms of, yeah, do that. It's a real interesting one.
Yeah.
And you can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, other podcast channels as ADHD Focus. It is also streaming on Roku and Fire Stick on the Experts and Authors.tv channel. Then you can access it anytime. And I'm so glad all of you could join us today. It's been a wonderful time, and I've enjoyed having Michelle with us. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Talk again.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.